Morning has broken, and I'm glad that you've joined us here on AM Live on today's installment of the Leadership Forum. Today we want to focus on starting on a clean slate. It is 2020, and of course, every year gives you a, so to speak, a blank check for you to begin writing your own dreams, your own aspirations, your own plans. And we want just to dwell with that with the panelists today, because just want to give you a pick-me-up. If you're feeling down in the dumps, this is what we have for you every Friday here on the Leadership Forum. We shall be discussing that with the panelists who are already here. We have already in studio with us, we have Professor Dominic Mwenje, who is the CEO of the Mater Hospital. Also, we have Joyce Kaduki. She is a leadership coach and a trainer. We shall be giving you more of the details much later in the course of the program. But good to see you, Prof. Good evening. No, not good evening. I wanted to say good morning and Happy New Year, right? Because we haven't seen this, we haven't seen each other this year.
Yes. Good morning, Bal, and good morning, Kenyans. It's very nice to see you. And this year, I want people to start imagining that Kenya that they would ideally like to have. And then we start doing something about that Kenya. It's a collective effort. We cannot build a Kenya individually.
Yes.
It's a collective effort where each one of us plays our own role. Each one of us is held responsible for things that we do and things that those around us that we influence to be where they are do. And therefore, for us, is this song, I can imagine, it's a country music song. I can imagine when this is happening. I can imagine a day when I'm able to wake up in the morning and I'm not worried about what I'm going to eat, what my children are going to eat. I can imagine a day where I wake up in the morning and I look at the newspapers and the headlines about Kenyans and not politicians. Imagine about that day when we wake up and nobody is going to bed hungry in this country. So I want us to be able to imagine those that country. And once we imagine, then we start building our own dreams. The Kenya dream, so to speak. And the Kenya dream is both individual and collective. Once we start doing that, and then we start holding people responsible for their actions, then we can dream that Kenya that we can be able to make. That's what I want Kenyans to focus on this year.
So we need to start on a clean slate, so to speak. You've talked about the headlines and the politics. What is your assessment so far? Are we so fixated and never gazing only on politics? We have so many other issues that are happening around the country. Or that is, what people want to hear, what people want to see?
Dibal, talk is cheap. And talk is easy, and politics is all about talking. When people spend time talking all the time and spend little time doing, then they are not held to account to anything.
Yes.
And therefore, thinking is hard work. Most of those of us who have taught in universities, and we have looked at our students from first year all the way to PhDs, we know thinking is hard work. And when you just talk for the sake of talking, without forethought of the implications of what you're thinking and what you're talking about, it's easy. What we need people to do now is to stop talking and start acting. Because if you look at the way Kenyans are today, Kenyans are stressed. The economic situation of the country needs to be addressed. We need to look at the Big Four agenda for the president and see what can we do about each one of these areas that we have focused the country on. We do the doing and not do the talking. And that is hard work.
That is hard work. Fantastic. Yeah, Joyce, good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Dibal, and thank you for having me on the show.
You're welcome. So yes, what are your thoughts about starting on a clean slate?
It's absolutely necessary, and it all starts with letting go of the past and focusing our energies on the present. And even as we focus on the present, we have an eye on the future. And let me go back to letting go of the past. We have had successes and we have had failures, and we need to let go of both of those. If we focus on the failures of yesterday, that's going to be baggage that will pull us back. If we focus on the successes, we celebrate too much. We have party after party after party. Then we'll forget that there's work to do and we'll be held back. And so we need to focus on the present, the resources, the energy, and that will help us move on. And like Professor has said, build a better Kenya, starting with building ourselves, because we cannot build if we are unable to build ourselves. So we build ourselves, and then when we are built up, then we are able to go out and make a difference.
But your assessment also of the country as well, because that can be very abstract, when maybe you can extrapolate that and put it squarely in what is happening in the country or other spheres of life as Kenyans.
Yes, and again, when you draw from the politics and even from industry, it's possible to look back at some of the mistakes we've done during the election years and bring them into the present. That will hold us back, and it will make us forget that we do not have to be held by what happened in the past.
Yes.
We are starting on a clean slate, and even as we look forward to 2020 and 2022, this is now beyond this year and into the next election period.
Yes.
Again, it's possible to go out there and have things run in a different way, not necessarily be held by the mistakes that we have made in the past.
Yes.
And start on a clean slate.
Start on a clean slate.
Yes.
Right. Of course, we eagerly also wait to hear from other panelists who will be joining us much later in the course of the program. Mike Eldon, also Professor Kwaka Sumba, also will be joined by Tom Okagwe as well, much later in the course of the program. But for now, let's see what is headlining the front pages of the dailies today. Beginning with the Daily Nation. This is what is on the front page of the Daily Nation. Young girls lured to sell their eggs, it says. This is where they're pushed to right now, as donors receive 50,000 shillings for their eggs clinic, or clinics charge women up to 1 million shillings to help them get babies using these eggs. Doctors and advocates warn of serious health complications associated with the donation of eggs. That is what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation. Also looking there on the flagger, advertising, clinics inviting women below 25 to donate, that is ovaries, for between 50,000 shillings and 70,000 shillings. That is what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation. Facing Mount Kenya, the race to succeed Uhuru. And it says here that Munya newly appointed Kagwe and sacked Kinjuri among leaders lining up to pick up the mantle for a president who will be crowned. That is the probing question there. And also, just to go back on that particular story, I didn't give you the details here. The procedure, the donor is injected with, this is the headlining story of the young girls lured to sell their eggs. This is the procedure now. 10, harvesting. The donor is injected with a second hormone to trigger ovulation. A physician then places her under general anesthesia and uses an aspiration needle to retrieve her eggs. And it continues to say that women can suffer health problems, most commonly ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, in which the ovaries swell, causing fluid to leak into the abdomen or chest. This is what Paul Mitei, the doctor, is saying, and you can read all the details on page 4 and 5 of today's Daily Nation this morning. Also, schools to get 8 billion shillings facelift is a sidebar story there, and you can follow the story. The details, we have them at the back page of the Daily Nation. New classrooms, laboratories and toilets to be built at states as state moves to ease congestion in institutions. Also in your Business Daily today, I'll show you much later, Chris Kirubi, what illness told him. It says here, a maverick businessman on building his dream home at age 79, what wealth means to him and the lessons learned from his health struggles. That is a story that you can follow also on page 2 of the Daily Nation this morning. And also, you can have a copy of the Business Daily where this story is well fleshed out for you as well. This is the Daily Nation. Let me try and retrieve also the Standard for you to just show you what we have on the front page of the Standard. And this is what you're waking up to the front page of the Standard today, 2022. How Mount Kenya is making Raila president. How Mount Kenya is making Raila president is all about the Kenyatta succession. The region accounted for 53% of United Jubilee vote in 2017. With Uhuru retiring, the party divided, former Gema allies deserting Ruto and no popular candidate from the area, raising prospects of voter apathy. It's a game on for ODM leader fired up by the handshake, and you have the story continuing on page 6 and 7 of the Standard today. Also, workers get 9,000 shillings tax cut for housing, and likely windfall. Employees will deduct the amount from income tax to boost savings for employees. Home ownership plan, a new push from the government to raise money for the project. You have the story continuing on page 8 of the Standard this morning. Let's move on and see what we have also on the front page of the People Daily, the front page of the Business Daily as well. I'll retrieve that quickly for you to see what is in there. And this is what we have on the front page of the Business Daily. IMF scorecard. Half of all public projects have stalled. Half of all public projects have stalled. This is what we have on the front page of the Business Daily this morning. Bretton Woods Institution says about 1 trillion shillings is needed to complete 500 projects hit by poor planning and low funds, causing private sector crunch. This story continues on page 4 of the Business Daily, and you can see the trend there. Trends in development and recurrent expenditure also is given for you. The figures there are here, and this is from COB, recurrent expenditure, development expenditure as well. Development expenditure amounted to 540.9 billion shillings, representing an absorption rate of 79.2%. The story is well fleshed out for you on page 4 of the Business Daily. Also, Uganda protests Kenya milk seizure. It says here Kampala. Let me try and zoom out for you to see a bit, but I'll read it out for you. You can't see it. But it says Kampala has sent a protest note to Nairobi demanding the immediate release of consignments of milk seized by Kenyan officials on alleged quality concerns, sparking a fresh diplomatic row. You follow the story on page 4 of the Business Daily. And also Michael Joseph, why I sold all my Safaricom shares. Safaricom's founding chief executive Michael Joseph has revealed that he sold off his entire shareholding in the company to fund the construction of his retirement home. Earlier regulatory filings showed that Mr. Joseph, who currently serves at the interim as the interim as the preposition here is as the interim CEO of Safaricom following the death of Bob Collymore last year, sold his entire stock in the giant telecommunications firm in the course of his fiscal year to March 2019. That is a story you can follow also on page 4 of the Business Daily. We have a standalone picture here, rare lunch, and we can see President Uhuru Kenyatta. This is with the Coast residents engaging President Uhuru Kenyatta outside the popular Barca restaurant that specializes in biryani and pilau meals after the head of state hosted 24 governors for lunch there yesterday. Among those present was Mombasa Governor Hassan Joho. Let's try and see what is on the side, but there. Kenya cuts oil export target to 400,000 barrels. Kenya has cut its crude oil export projections to 400,000 barrels per year between 2021 and 2023 in what signals a depressing assessment in the international market. Also, we have 3.6 trillion shillings as today's digit. That is the amount, I'm trying to zoom out for you to see, of deposits in Kenyan banks as at the end of October last year. Also, we have Amana stops client exit over Nakumat deals. Right, it's a bit tricky here reading from my laptop. I'll try and also get the hard copy so that I can read clearly It says here, Amana stops client exit over Nakumat deals. Asset manager Amana Capital has stopped its clients from withdrawing their funds after investing significant chunk of assets under management in the collapsed Nakumat Holdings. You have the story continuing on page 8 of the Business Daily. Also, startups funding rises to 44 billion shillings, according to the 2019 funding report by the We Tracker Kenya. Kenya came only second to Nigeria in the amount received during the year, indicating the attractiveness of the country to deal financiers. You have the story continuing on page 19 of the Business Daily this morning. So make sure you grab a copy of the Business Daily. Also, you can read all the details on economy and politics, on the budget, also ideas and debate on the economy, avoid fiscal castles in the air in growth journey. And man in the news today is Kinjuri, minister who flew too close to the sun. And you have the story well fleshed out for you on page 26 of the Business Daily this morning. Let me see if I can try and retrieve for you as well the People Daily, and try to cross the region. We go to Uganda and also Tanzania to try and see what is also on the front page of the dailies there. From the Business Daily, I'm trying to retrieve my People Daily, which seems to be eluding me. Let's cross over now to Tanzania and try and also see what is on the front page of this is what we have today. Here is Tanzania's newest billionaire. This is a 35-year-old Andron Mendes. Copper gas innovation sold to United Kingdom Baided Circle Gas in the largest ever pure private equity investment in the clean cooking technology sector, and immediately catapults the young businessman into the Tanzania's Billionaires Club. You have the story well fleshed out for you on page 2 of the Citizen this morning. Also, Tanzania captain Samata for Villa. This is all in the sports. And this is a figure given there. Maybe I've not really told you. 900 million shillings, the number of LPG consumers who will be targeted after Circle Gas gains access to the copper gas proprietary technology and advance its manufacturing ready for expansion to several markets across Africa, with Kenya already locked in via Safaricom agreement. That is a story you can follow inside the Citizen today. Also, John Pombe Magufuli summons Lugola need a boss over ID crisis. You can follow the story on page 2 of the Citizen this morning. Still in Tanzania, we have also the Mwananchi for you, and this is what is on the front page of Mwananchi for you. As I try and retrieve it quickly for you, this is the Swahili version of the Citizen. Lugola vigogo nida waitwa Ikulu, as you saw it on the front page of the Citizen, and this is a splash on the front page of Mwananchi as well. Wasitisha should say mkutano wao na wanahabari kuzungumzia sakata la kitambulisho cha taifa. That is a story. You can continue with it on page 4 of the Mwananchi this morning. Let's cross over now to Uganda and see what we have headline for us on the front page of the Daily Monitor in Uganda. And it's all about matters academia. Government transfers 1,400 teachers, it says. These are changes. Ministry says affected teachers must report to the new stations not less than January the 31st to prepare for new term on February the 3rd. So the list is on page 8, 9, 10, 14 and 15 of the Daily Monitor this morning. Also, education budget to be slashed. This is according to Minister, and this is the Minister of Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, appearing before the Parliament Education Committee to present the half-year performance report and budget requirements for financial year 2020-2021 yesterday. She said the budget will shrink because some donor-funded projects will be exiting. Also, death toll from Ginger building collapse, I should say, rises to 5. This is according to officials. And Museveni bids farewell to U.S. ambassador. You can follow the story on page 2. Also, pomp fanfare as Rwenzururu Queen returns home. You can follow the story also on page 6 of the Daily Monitor if you're waking up in Uganda this morning. I want to take you down now to Rwanda to just see also what we have on the front page of the New Times in Rwanda. I just want to show you the New Times. All right, I think that is on the folder that I have on my touchscreen. I don't have it here on my laptop. I'll show you that much later in the course of the program. But have you also picked a copy of the East African this week, today being the last day? Belt tightening as government kicks CSs and PSs out of parastatal boards. There's a circular here from the head of public service directing the state officers that state officers should not be appointed to serve as independent members. And you have the story on page 5 of the East African this morning. And the National Treasury CS Ukur Yatani, he had earlier said this, that quote-unquote had earlier suspended benchmarking tours by state officers and restricted the number of people accompanying CSs and PSs. Also, the Chief of Staff in the office of the President, Joseph Kinyua, said the selection of alternate directors should be on the basis of subject matter expertise and experience. Also, law into trade hunting ESC in 2020 is another story. Unless government take drastic action to tackle trade barriers, economies will suffer. The story continues on page 4, where you have a full report inside the East African this week. Also, future problems remain the same. That is climate and health. Countries reporting emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases. You have the story continuing on page 21 and 23 of the East African this week. Also, Germany struggling to overcome African past. The killing of 8,000, that is 80,000 in Namibia in early 1900s, still not settled. You have that well fleshed out for you inside the Outlook on page 30 of the East African. Also, the bittersweet tales of Kenya's SGR project as long-haul transport business declines, sector gains efficiency. The story continues also inside the East African. Let me try and show you also what we have on the front page of the Nairobi Law Monthly and also the Nairobi Business Monthly as well. This is the current copy. So if you've not grabbed your copy, make sure you do so. This is how it looks. The Nairobi Law Monthly staff, of course, looking on the state of the judiciary, jurisprudence, efficiency, fidelity to call of office, and rule of law is what they're training their focus on. So if you've not really grabbed your copy yet, please make sure you do so. Also, we do have a copy of the Nairobi Business Monthly as well, just to give you a snippet of what it is holding for us. And this is what is on the front page of the latest copy. Uhuru's fuzzy economics, understanding rosy economy that has left Kenyans broke. Internationally, we have also the Time Magazine, US edition, and also the international edition as well. Let me just show you a copy of what is on the front page of getting there quickly. This is how it looks. The Iran standoff, the 40-year conflict, the 40-year conflict. These are essays there written by Elliot Ackman, David French, and James Stavridis, and what it means for the world. You can follow the story inside the Time Magazine. This is the international edition. I want to show you also the latest copy of the US edition as well. And this is what you're waking up to. If you've not really grabbed your copy, maybe you can do that to just see what they're training their focus on. Let me just go there quickly so that I can lift it up for you to see what is in there. This is how it looks. It's all about the impeachment in the US. Her gamble, why Nancy Pelosi went all in against Trump. And you can follow this story by Molly Ball inside the Time Magazine. This is the US edition, the latest copy that we do have as well. I want to show you also what we have on the front page of the People Daily. I actually told you that I'll try and lift that for you to see what it is holding for us. And this is what we have on the front page of the People Daily this morning. Purge on Ruto. Allies moves to Parliament. Revealed Duale to be spared as plot to replace Murkomen. Washiali Kihika from key House leadership positions takes shape. And also I'll be remiss if I don't show you what is on the front page of the Star. It also gives full details of this developments as far as politics is concerned. This is what we have on the front page of the Star. Gideon to take Murkomen's post in the Senate. Gideon to take Murkomen's post in Senate. It says now Uhuru wants to tame William Ruto in Parliament. And Nyeri Town MP Ngunjira Shulse Wambugu confirms plans to institute far-reaching changes in the leadership of both houses. You can follow the story on page 4 and 5 of the Star this morning. Also still on the front page of the Star, Sarah allowed to pick only her shoes, clothes and makeup. This is the development of this particular case. The widow of slain Dutch tycoon Tob Cohen was yesterday given access to her bedroom to pick her personal effects, including clothes, shoes, handbags, and grooming tools. You can follow the story on page 6 of the Star this morning. Also, ex-Keroshe MD Sam Sholei wants 75 million shillings a payout. Former Keroshe Breweries MD Sam Sholei wants the company to pay him 75 million shillings as compensation for unfair and wrongful termination. Sholei says the brewer failed to follow the disciplinary process and terminated him for no reason. You have the story continuing on page 9 of the Star this morning. Also, Central alcoholics sick with risky brain disease. There is a study here. Central Kenya has one of the world's worst levels of alcoholism, with most drinkers suffering severe alcohol use disorder. A new study says AUD is a chronic brain disease characterized by compulsive alcohol abuse. You have the story continuing on page 17 of the Star this morning. So make sure you grab a copy of that. Finally, let's just see what we have as editorial cartoons as well today before we buckle down to a discussion with our panelists this morning. This is what we have inside the People Daily and also the Star. Let me just try and retrieve that quickly for you. Stano has drawn for us this today, and it's all about the politicking on the BBI, anti-BBI and handshake, and pro-BBI and handshake. And you can see they're pulling for both ends as far as the Jubilee Party is concerned. I'll leave it for you to decipher this. This is what Stano has drawn inside the People Daily this morning. Right, we want to buckle down to a discussion this morning. We have most of our panelists here. I can see some regrets here from Tom Kagwe, who cannot be able to make it. Also, Trufosa Kwaka, she's feeling a bit rough, but she will be stepping in a bit later. But we'll continue with the conversation nonetheless. You remember earlier we had told you that we're discussing about, just to give you some of the pick-me-ups in the morning to encourage you, something to maybe give you what do we call it, a peg to put your thoughts on for this year. This is starting on a clean slate, right? And of course, we know life has a way of throwing curveballs along our paths. Some of you may be crossed over to 2020 feeling that you're defeated, you cannot make it, you're going through a rough patch right now. It could be in your marriage, you're sick. It could be maybe you're jobless or you've lost your job and you're wondering, so what do I do? What is next for me? And there's so many challenges that really, come along our path. Sometimes we need somebody along our path as well to encourage us, to give us the pick-me-up, to tell us that we can make it, to tell us, of course, you don't have to travel with all that baggage that you had last year, you can travel light this year. So we have a panelist already with us here. I'd introduce to you Professor Dominic Mwenja, who is the CEO of Mater Hospital. Also, we do have with us Joyce Kaduki. She's a leadership coach and trainer. We have as well Mike Eldon, who is the founder and managing consultant of the depot that is Dan Place of Tomorrow. And we'll be joined much later by Professor Kwaka Shumba. She is the principal of St. Paul's University Nairobi campus. Good morning again.
Morning.
And glad to see you, Mike, this morning. Right? Happy New Year. I haven't told you Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Right, I was a bit getting antsy because Mike is always spot on time before everyone. So I was wondering.
I sent you a text.
Oh, you did send me a text,
Yeah.
huh? Oh, I think I was on there. I didn't see it. But glad to see you, nonetheless. So the topic of the day, is all about starting on a clean slate. It's 2020, and we want to encourage Kenyans who, at this particular time and point, they're feeling a bit, underwhelmed or overwhelmed, I should say, and they're feeling, I cannot really go on. I need some encouragement. I need some hope, and hope. The Bible says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, right? Sometimes it's good to be hopeful, but why should I be hopeful when things are looking, black, bleak, and blur? Mike.
Oh, I thought that was a statement. And then you were going to ask...
Before you shake into place.
It's a choice, actually. We all have a choice as to how we react to what's surrounding us. And what is our inner strength? Do we have the strength to keep going, to keep looking for new opportunities? Mm-hmm. Or do we give up? And there's a whole spectrum of us.
Yes.
In every country in the world. In Kenya, we have more people, I think, who don't give up than most people do. Mm-hmm. Now, what they do when they won't give up is a different question. But we are such a high energy country with so many high energy people that looking down from the balcony on Kenya or from the helicopter, it must give us more hope than if we were in many other countries where there is low energy and people just assume that tomorrow will be like yesterday at any level, never mind those who've lost a job or never had a job. So the job of leadership, of course, as we've been seeing in the last few days at the beginning of the year, is to rearrange things so that more people get hope. And we are not delivering disproportionate hope to a small minority. And it's been very encouraging, particularly to me, that the CS Treasury, now confirmed in his position, was very articulate on that subject. And we've not heard that before, more so from the Treasury.
Thank you. Let's hear from Prof. In fact, just flipping through that particular copy of the Nairobi Business Monthly, we had a bit of a briefing there where they're taking a snapshot of the business world, and they're saying most Kenyans consider themselves prosperous, even with less than average income. It goes to say that Kenyans, Nigerians, and South Africans have an overwhelmingly positive view on how their household situation will change over the next year. This is 2020. They consider themselves to be prosperous, even though their incomes are less than what is seen to be the average. And this is according to Pay US Global Survey, or PayUS, right? Or PayU's Global Survey on Financial Prosperity, the world's first financial prosperity barometer. Right. What do you think of this, Professor?
Diba, we are a very optimistic society. Kenyans are hardworking. I remember when those many years when Jesse Jackson was the only voice for black people in America. He used to tell us, keep hope alive, keep hope alive. Kenyans are prayerful, Kenyans are hopeful, Kenyans are optimistic. But what we ask ourselves is, what do you do with our prayerfulness?
Yes.
What do you do with our optimism? What do we do when you're hopeful? When you put those things in the context of 7 things, how do those three things affect? One, where we live. Two, what we eat. Three, what we wear. Four, how we move. Five, how we heal ourselves. Six, how we educate ourselves. Seven, how we entertain ourselves. Those 7 facets of life define who we are as individuals. So if we pray and we are optimistic and we do nothing about improving those 7, and we look at the opportunities that are within the society and see how we can exploit those opportunities to look at those 7 things that define who we are as human beings. And then we as leaders, our job is to provide opportunity for our people to address those 7 things. We may not do it all at once as one leader, but you can do 2 or 3 of those. For example, myself, I'm in healthcare, I'm in education, and I'm in agriculture.
Yes.
Those are 3 areas that I have dedicated my life to. Those are 3 areas that I've spent so much time trying to make sure that our people, how do they heal themselves? What do they eat? And how do they educate themselves? And therefore, as leaders, when we look at those 7 things that define our human lives, then we do whatever we need to do, and we have to be deliberate and methodical in how we approach things. And therefore, and that's why, as I ask Kenyans today to look forward, I ask them to imagine, like we said earlier today, imagine that Kenya where the headlines is not about politics every single day. Imagine that Kenya
Really?
where honesty, hard work, and integrity form the basis of human interaction. Imagine that Kenya where corruption is something that is not in our lips. And I was laughing the other day because America has an African president for the first time in the history of the country. Donald Trump is so close to what we see with African politics, where everything is about politics. Everything that comes out of his mouth is politics.
Let me spare you, because we're going to give us a lot of that from the lectern just momentarily. Let's hear from Joyce.
Yes, Debal. Now, hope is one thing to think about. And it is true Kenyans are optimistic. And that is why when you look at the field of education, when you look in the office space, people go to great lengths to overcome the challenges that they're going through. And sometimes what I feel is that we don't pass on this as much to our younger people. I'm looking back at the exam results that we got just last month. This is the KCP results and the KCSE.
Yes.
And some of the young people who did not get good grades to be able to get to the next level of education, some of them feel disappointed. And so there's the need to pass on this hope that the older generation feel and pass on to the younger people, so that they don't feel that just because one did not do well in exams, that is the end of things. To let them know that, yes, there's a way you can still succeed despite not having made it well academically. And so the hope is there, but there's a lot more that we need to do. Yes.
Thank you, Joyce. So we have a yellow card and red card. This is for the sake of you, Joyce, to just prime you on what we normally do every Friday on the Leadership Forum. On the bell, this is just for the sake of time keeping as well. And remember, you have a mic over there. I don't know if for all of you, you have a lapel mic, or all of you are tethered. You're tethered. Yes. If you are tethered, then actually just remember to remove your mic and you can walk over there where we have that particular microphone, which is handy. It will come in handy for you when you are on the lectern. So we just want to go straight into the topic of the day, and we'll begin with you, Professor Dominic Mwenja. You have 5 minutes beginning now. So Dominic will actually take us through the topic of the day, which is starting on a clean slate, starting on a clean slate. So we have 2020, which is obviously a blank check for you to write on your dreams, your aspirations, your hopes, and see how it will pan out this year. It's better to actually plan out earlier so that you can actually not be working under pressure. So, Professor, you've got 5 minutes beginning now. You can tilt your mic a bit down so that we can be able also to say your first. Thank you.
Oh, this is impressive. Now I think we have firm Velcro here that's making sure that I think Mike led the campaign last time.
The infrastructure is improving
To get you that other microphone. Good morning, Kenyans. Good morning, panelists. Good morning, Kenyans. Today, I want us to look at ourselves and project ourselves, what I call Kenya Beyond 2020, and look at the things that we are aspiring to do that will affect 7 things that I'm going to tell you. Things that are going to determine where we live, things that are going to determine what we eat, things that are going to determine what we wear, things that are going to determine how we move, things that are going to determine how we heal ourselves, things that are going to determine how we educate ourselves and our children, things that are going to determine how we entertain ourselves. Now, when we look at those 7 things that define the human nature, then we have to think about where we are as Kenya today and where we would like for Kenya to be tomorrow. And in that context, I dare you to dream, what I call the Kenyan dream. And we just discussed the 3 things of hope, optimism, and prayerfulness. Imagine a Kenya where the daily conversation is not about the politics, but about how we improve the life of Kenyans. You dare dream. Dream and think of a Kenyan where honesty, hard work, and integrity form the basis of human interaction. Imagine a Kenya where corruption is a thing of the past. Imagine a Kenya where the youth are gainfully employed, all are they are entrepreneurs. Imagine a Kenya where poverty is systematically and methodically tackled in ways that bring everybody in society together so that we can widen the base of what I call economic citizens. Imagine a Kenya where healthcare, access and affordability are guaranteed. Imagine a Kenya where no one goes hungry because we don't have enough food. Imagine a Kenya where leaders and management in organizations and in politics are held to account for their actions. Those are some of the things I want us to think and look forward to as we look to 2020. Because if the things that got us where we are today are the things that we continue to do tomorrow, for me, that is not going to work. So we have to figure out a way to think differently, to act differently. There are some top priorities that we have to have in this country and on this continent that I'm hoping we'll be able to look at 2020 and beyond. 1, job creation. It needs to catch up with the number of youths that we are putting on the market today. Today, 1 million young people join the marketplace every single year. Are we creating enough jobs in order to absorb these young people? And if we are not, we have to ask ourselves, what more can we do in order for us to create those jobs to absorb our young people, and therefore having more what I call economic citizens. And economic citizenry, is where a citizen is a net contributor instead of a net consumer of government services, where everybody is employed or some form of employment, has some income. They are net contributors. We need more Kenyans who are economic citizens. We look at the gaps in good and inclusive governance. Where are we in terms of governance that affects those 7 things that form the basis of life for our people? We have to ask ourselves those questions as we move forward in 2020. Climate change. What issues in climate change are affecting those 7 things that I discussed earlier? Food insecurity. What are we doing to make sure that we are food secure in this country and in this continent and for our people? Access to quality healthcare. We have to ask ourselves. These are the things that we need to think about as we move to 2020 and beyond. Then capturing what I call the 4th industrial revolution. How are we using technology today, and especially those of us in leadership that understand where the country and the world is, how are we using the fourth industrial revolution to generate big data that will help us to make decisions that are well informed and are able to solve some of the problems our people face every single day. And we are looking also, as we move through 2020 and beyond, on regional integration. What are we doing within a region of this country, within of this part of Africa, within the region of an African context, so that we are able to benefit from what each of these countries have. Now, Dibal, when we look at those, then we'll be in a position to start looking at where Kenya is supposed to be. So I ask Kenyans, dare to dream. Let's have the Kenyan dream, where aspirations are guided by the things that we do every single day. But then at the same time, it's incumbent upon us in leadership to make sure that we open opportunities for Kenyans. If we look at all these issues and these things as leaders, and we open these opportunities for our people, we are going to have a better 2020 and beyond. But we have to be held accountable. We ask that Kenyans, we hold our leaders and those in influential positions responsible for what is happening to the 7 things that I just talked about.
Yes.
When we do that, we'll build a better Kenya. When we'll do that, we'll have a more economic citizens who are more net contributors than consumers, and it will be a better country and a better people. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to a wonderful 2020, but mostly for me in agriculture, where I'm very much involved in agriculture and job creation for the youth, in healthcare, where I'm involved as a CEO of Mother Hospital, and in education, where I own a college that makes sure that the things that we do are the things that are going to impact this country for the next 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dominic Mwenja. And of course, we've taken, as always say, the salient points from his presentation there, looking at different facets of the economy and how we can jumpstart that in 2020. We are starting on a clean slate. Of course, we've seen also different shakeups within the economy as far as also the cabinet secretary's reassignments is concerned as well. We want to hear right now from Joyce Kaduki. She is a leadership facilitator, coach, speaker, and trainer. She is the founder and director of Primo Strategy Limited and founding partner of the Global John Maxwell team. Joyce, you should be walking over to the lectern as I'm trying to read this. I'm just trying to bide my time there so that you can get there. She's also currently serving as a member of the President's Advisory Council of the John Maxwell team. So she's going to take us through this particular topic as well, starting on a clean slate. Joyce, you got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Dibal, and good morning, Kenyans. When I think about starting on a clean slate, I look at different areas, and I'm looking at this from the point of view of leadership, both at the personal level and also at the corporate level. There's leadership of our finances and our careers. There's leadership of our relationships at the family level and beyond. There's leadership of health and wellness. There's leadership of sports and ministry when we go to the wider society. And there's leadership of ministry, our calling, where different ones of us serve on a day-to-day basis. It is possible to be held back by what has happened in the past. Some have gone through sickness in the family and even individual sickness. And one has to realize that it's possible then to change things around by taking charge of one's wellness, so that if it was a case of not being responsible, taking personal leadership and doing what needs to be done in terms of taking care of personal health, then do the exercise, eat well, and make a difference in the days that are coming. When you go back to the area of career and finances, there may be people who, at the end of the year, the job evaluation did not turn out favorably. For companies, they are having their accounts audited say from beginning this month, those that have their financial year at the end of December. And in the next few months, we are going to be receiving results of this markets collapse. And so it's thinking about what can we learn from this tough period that we have been through? What lessons do we take from there and use that to draw a new future for ourselves in the career and finance space? Relationships, again, coming from a festivities period, and that doesn't necessarily have to be the time that families come together and they are get-togethers, and sometimes there are strained relationships at that level, and they come out clearly sometimes at those gatherings. And it's again thinking about, we are starting on a clean slate. It's a new year, it's a new beginning, and whatever held us back, those strained relationships, we do not have to carry that going forward. We can reconcile with those that either wronged us or that we wronged and go to apologize and start on a clean slate. And again, moving on to the area of sports, we have seen mixed fortunes, especially in the area of football. We possibly have done better in rugby. And again, thinking even where our teams did well, it's possible to get held back by those successes, talking about rugby. And we have to realize that starting on a clean slate means not focusing too much on the successes of the past, but moving forward and doing what it takes so that this year and beyond, again, we continue to see those successes. And where we have not been responsible, it's drawing lessons from the past and again going forward. I know in the past year we celebrated as Kenyans with the I Know challenge, and we felt that was our win. And so that is one that we can take forward, well, among many others, of course, that we can take forward and draw lessons from to build a better Kenya in the area of sports. Moving on to the area of ministry, those that are not necessarily involved in a financial setting, in corporate settings, but even those that are employed, there's the area where you go to serve either on a weekend or during your free time, and drawing lessons from what has happened in the past and bringing that into the present, so that as we look forward, looking forward to Vision 2030, looking at the Big Four agenda, looking at the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, knowing that we are drawing all of those lessons and bringing them into the present so that we focus our energies, our time, and the resources that we have so that we have a better tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And so what we do today, we need to filter it through the lens of, it's not just about today, but also keeping a focus on the future, so that we don't get lost in the day-to-day and forget that we need to keep a long-term view, not get caught up in the politics of the day. That has happened in some quarters already, and realizing that there's a Kenya beyond 2020, there's a Kenya beyond the elections of 2022, and there's a Kenya beyond to even 2027. There's Vision 2030 and beyond. And so it's about bringing personal leadership to whatever space we are serving in, because when we are more effective leaders at the personal level, then it's going to be much easier to be more effective at a global level. And how we lead ourselves at the personal space, we bring that into the global space. And so it's necessary then to realign things and really make a difference for the present and for the future, not just for ourselves, but even as we think about our children and our children's children, because it really goes beyond the present leadership and goes to those who are in school and those who are being born today. And that is my take on building a better Kenya, and that's by starting on a clean slate, not getting held by the successes and the failures of the past.
Right, thank you, Joyce. Of course, there is the dream and aspirations of Joyce Kaduki as far as starting on a clean slate is concerned for this country as well. We are so navel-gazed on politics, but there is life beyond 2022 in this country. Looking at the headlines, of course, all of them are splashed with political tones as well. But we need to also try and plumb deep and see that what is a life beyond this politics? How are we faring on as Kenyans? Are we connected together as far as cohesion is concerned? There's so many facets that we can actually talk about today and this morning. So we want to take a short break. When we circle back, we shall hear from Mike Eldon as well, and hopefully also we shall hear from Tufosa Kwakasumba, who she's still on her way. She's feeling rough, but she'll try and be here just momentarily. So don't go away. Much more coming up on the other side of a break. Remember to hit us on Twitter. AM Live NTV is the Twitter handle. AM Live NTV, our profile name on Facebook, and 20686, our SMS portal.
Eldoret Technical Training Institute. Registration for January, May and September 2020 intakes is ongoing. Apply now. Eldoret Technical Training Institute. Growing reputation.
Kupika kila mtu ajipikie yake. Na vyombo za nani? Kwa nani?
Am I not getting some?
Ice cream ya wageni. Wewe nitakuletea maji kwa jikoni.
A girl's gotta eat to keep up with you, Mr. Guns.
Well, that's absolutely correct.
This festive season, get a decoder with subscription at an unbelievable festive offer of only 1,499 shillings. You can also pay 1 month and enjoy 2 weeks free on a higher bouquet. For more information, call 0719 077 077.
Star Times. Enjoy digital life.
The name Itumbi means an egg. Yes. I think the police officers may have executed the wrong orders from above. Tango one. Gilimani police station. Mdosi amesema mumugongee mayai.
Moses Kuria is not one of us. Not one of us, as in, he's not a learned friend. Unajua kama Raila Odinga anasemanga he's not one of us. He's not one of us.
Hata wewe uko kwa hiyo mix.
Yes, he's not one of us.
Lupita alipitia kwa mkono yako.
Yes, right, of course, yeah.
Does it ever bother you that you are the volcano and it is Lupita who erupted?
Every day, NTV News team moves you to the center of the action.
The security forces who took part in this operation.
Police are not taking anything to chance.
Moves you to the heart of the story to witness and record history.
Rendering the declared results null and void.
Telling the story of Kenya.
The growing importance of border in Mandera.
Matatus will be on strike.
And beyond.
The politics in the United States capital.
It is the 7th edition of the Global Education taking place in Dubai.
When it comes to business, we crunch the numbers and unpack the detail with the latest information for your investment decision.
It's time to say goodbye to this note and karibu to this note.
In order for the manufacturing sector to be elevated from the ground.
Despite the government's promise to create at least 1.3 million jobs.
Moves you fast past the planes and trucks to bring you the triumphs and joys of our great men and women.
Moving stories that touch our hearts.
I didn't know that I could go back to school.
The Back to School program has brought hope to these young mothers.
NTV News. News that moves you.
Yoga is an everyday practice. If you're looking to transform your physical life and get into a healthy mental state, do it every day.
What's the value of breathing in and out? Because I hear a lot of that with the yoga.
In every movement we do in yoga, there is a breath. Every pose goes with a breath. The more we breathe in the practice of yoga, we avoid so many injuries.
With Lipa na M-Pesa, you get more.
Lipa na M-Pesa.
Every 100 shillings spent on Lipa na M-Pesa earns you an entry into the draw. Do more with Lipa na M-Pesa.
If you don't stop, I will record this, and then I'll show your son that embarrassing thing you're doing. I'm sure he won't ever go back to work again. Miss Hillary, I want to join the search for Salvador.
Wait, I'm coming too.
But why?
Carrie, if I were you, I wouldn't make friends with that guy, because they're a family of criminals.
Well, that serves you right. Don't you ever call me again.
I offered to pay your debt. That is if you will help me.
Ilizae kama hajalema.
Serikali leta dawa gani?
It's almost a year, nothing has been done.
I just need some form of information.
Dr. Mugo Wairimu first hit the headlines when a video clip showing him raping an unconscious female patient in his clinic.
With the puzzle surrounding the sugar saga yet to be cleared.
How many times were you sexually abused?
Like 3 times.
How was a convicted child molester allowed to set up a children's home in the country?
NTV News. Bold, balance, authoritative.
Welcome back. You're watching the Leadership Forum here on AM Live, and the topic of today is starting on a clean slate. It is 2020, and of course every year you have a new beginning and a fresh impetus for you to face the year, dreams, aspirations that you have to realize as well. And this is what we are getting encouraged by our panelists this morning, who have already also given us a snippet on, I've taken salient points from their presentation from the lectern. We have Mike Eldon, who is the founder and the CEO of the depot, that is Dan Eldon Place of Tomorrow, and also the founder of the Institute for Responsible Leadership. He's on the lectern right now to give us his slice of starting on a clean slate. Mike, you got 5 minutes.
Good morning, everyone, and a happy clean slate new year to everyone.
Thank you.
This clean slate thing is not new. The Romans had it.
Mm-hmm.
It was called tabula rasa.
Tabula rasa.
And actually, in this business of living and people, there's never anything new.
Mm-hmm.
It's just new, fancy vocabulary. The term clean slate itself started in the 19th century with slates in schools for exercises with chalk, and in bars, in taverns, for bills and for menus. And then you wipe them out and you start again. And I guess the reason we're talking about this here is because whenever we turn the year, it's an opportunity to rethink. And to rethink how? What does that mean, starting with a clean slate? It means what we do, but it's also the mindset. And the first thing that occurred to me when I started thinking about this was the question of forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
To start with a clean slate by forgiving others, and at least as important, forgiving oneself. And then to forget, to erase, to remove wasted thoughts that hold one back from new activity and new achievement. To learn the lessons, though, from what happened, from having been tested, and sometimes having emerged with success, triumphantly, and sometimes not. Maybe not one's fault, maybe one's fault. And to do this kind of analysis before the erasing, but then erasing. To appreciate that we are all tested every year, whether we have jobs or lost jobs or are in jobs or got promotion, we are all tested. And when we are tested, for many of us, as I was indicating before, we are strengthened. That is the challenge. Not to avoid being tested, but to get strengthened when you are tested, to find that strength, to push through, and to be ready to face new, bigger challenges, the same challenges maybe, different challenges, and to move on with new triumphs and also new setbacks. And also to feel good about the achievements. In Kenya, we're not very good at that. We're so humble, we don't want to be seen to be blowing our trumpet, and so we hold back from bragging, even to oneself, or more particularly to oneself, and I think that's not healthy. The other thing is that in this volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world, the VUCA world, we need to clean the slate more often, or at least wipe bits of it out.
Mm-hmm.
So because we need to be flexible and agile. And here today we're talking about all of this at the leadership level. This is the leadership forum. So where are we in all this business of helping others clean slates, and not just once a year or every cabinet reshuffle? There's some interesting quotes I want to share with you, and one that occurred to me as I was finishing with some responsibilities last year was that the autumn leaves must fall to allow the new ones to grow. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a wonderful statement. I took quite some time reflecting on it. Here's another one from E.M. Foster, who was born on 1st of January 1879. Mm-hmm. We must be willing to let go of the life we planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. Mm-hmm. And the third one from Zora Hurston, who was born in 1891. There are years that ask questions and years that answer them. We don't know what year this one will be, but we hope that in some years at least questions are answered. But it's fun to have questions too. I want to tell you about the clean slate of my grandson Daniel Turtletaub in California. My daughter Amy sent me a picture of his goals for 2020, or as they would say there, 2020. The first goal is the community goal of Daniel, not to waste water, to have faster showers and less water in the bath. Mm-hmm. At home we've just fitted one of those instant heating showers so as to use less power. At school, his goal is to do homework faster by finding a quiet space and focusing. That's not bad for a 9-year-old, huh? Mm-hmm. And the third one is at home not to fight with his older brother Jack and not bring up stuff that will bother him. Jack and Daniel and I had talked about that last May in London. For me, I'm looking forward to leading people responsibly with our new institute, and actually to take up things that I let go of many years ago. Just before Christmas, I played tennis for the first time in nearly 10 years. After Christmas, I rode a bike for the first time in many more years and played badminton for the first time. So you talk about entertainment, sport is another one, exercise, fitness, and with some responsibilities ending, new ones are emerging. Mm-hmm. At the government level, we've talked a little bit about some of the issues. I praise the new CS Treasury for his assertive comments on rebalancing the economy. I think we have hope with a new slate in the ministries of agriculture, in health in particular with Mutahi Kagwe, and with Betty Maina in trade and industry. We have new opportunities for people like Kianjuri, who has to find a new slate. Now he's no longer in the cabinet. And counties like Kiambu and Nairobi have opportunities for new slates as their governors are elsewhere. This morning, as I was glancing through the papers when I arrived a little late, I saw that both Chris Kirubi and Michael Joseph are building new houses for their retirement. That's their new slate. And Chris Kirubi, in a quote there, says, being interviewed, he says, at this time, what he's doing after his serious illness the poor gentleman had some time ago, he said, you think about the past, you think about what you could have done, you think about what you have not done, and what you can do for the things you have ignored. That's nice from Chris. Well done, Chris. So many people have to have a clean slate. Harry and Meghan are choosing to. And the question for us is, where do we have the choice? Where can we be bold enough to clean what should be cleaned rather than continuing with comfortable habits? How do we expand our comfort zones, take on bigger challenges, not waste energy on mourning what didn't happen on the previous slate?
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. And of course, also, you can grab a copy of the Business Daily, which is focusing on Chris Kirubi there. You have him there. We're talking about clean slate and Chris Kirubi's moment, the 79-year-old who is building his dream home while recuperating from a long illness, reflects on his life. Also, the Daily Nation has picked up some of his sentiments as well, where he's now really, it says that he's realized the importance of God. Whereas in page 2 there, Kirubi, it took long illness to make me realize God is most powerful. Sometimes we're jolted, out of a sleeping stupor to realize that some of these things that we have, the trappings of life, do not really belong to us at the end of the day. That is someone higher than us who has the power, who has, all the strings that is pulling on our lives, and we owe him and we're indebted to him as far as living is concerned, and that is God. Thank you. So we've heard from our panelists. We just want to continue with the discussion here with them so far. And also waking up this morning was a very interesting headline on the front page of the Daily Nation. I just want to pull it up quickly for you to see it, so that it can also pose some questions on our discussions and also where the country is headed. Young girls are lured to sell their eggs, and clinics inviting women below 25 to donate over for between 50,000 shillings and 70,000 shillings. As donors receive 50,000 shillings for the eggs, clinics charge women up to 1 million shillings to help them get babies using these eggs. Doctors and advocates warn of serious health complications associated with donation of eggs. And the story continues on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. And we're talking about starting on a clean slate. And we should question ourselves, why would even be our young girls be subjected to this sort of, a trade that is ongoing, that we can sell our eggs right now, for that particular sum of money? Is it because we push to the brink in a very precarious, place that we have no other options than also to maybe donate some of our key organs in our bodies? We can see some of them also in this country are selling their kidneys just to get some money to, bail them out from the current maybe financial pickle they're in. Let's just hear from you, Professor. We began with you.
Dibal, when these young people do some of these things, they do because they don't have a choice. They do because this is a way for them to make some money. This is a way for them to pretty much do something with what they have, and they're willing to take that risk. It goes back to what we just talked about. We churn out about 1 million young people in the job market in this country every single year. So the question we have, and the fundamental question we have to ask ourselves, are we able to create enough jobs to absorb these 1 million people, young people that we churn into the market every single year? And the answer is just simply not. Because one, the economy is not growing fast enough. Two, if you look at, let's take Nairobi, for example, the county of Nairobi, where 62% of the money collected in this county goes towards paying people. Who most likely don't do what they're supposed to do. Now, when you see such a thing where recurrent expenditure is consuming a whole bunch of of what we actually earn, we are in this cycle. It's a rat race. You make, you spend, you make, you spend, you make, you spend. And that's why we keep saying that sometimes it looks like we have a jobless growth. The economy is expanding. If you look at the numbers, and IMF is trying to tell us, if you look at the numbers, we have these wonderful numbers that we are looking at. But do they translate to jobs? That's the fundamental question we have to ask ourselves. Let me give you an example. Recently, I was in China, and I visited 3 cities. I was in Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou. Shanghai is the financial capital of China, and the second most important financial capital in the world after New York. Then Guangzhou is the Silicon Valley, Shenzhen is the Silicon Valley of China. And then you go to Guangzhou, that's where all the traders meet. Now, within those cities, the time that I was in China, I have an interest in looking at the composition of people. My 30 years in America taught me one thing. Anytime you are within a population, look at the dynamics of the population itself. So I started looking at people from different countries, and I didn't see many Africans in Shanghai. But I saw a lot of Europeans and Asians, Japanese, and everybody else. Same thing with Shenzhen. I didn't see a lot of Africans until I got to Guangzhou, and that's the trading floor of China. That's where all the things, and you have this drove of Africans who are all over Guangzhou. And I happened to be there during the week of Canton Fair. That's one of the largest fairs in the world. And these people are there to buy stuff. They are there to buy they bring the hard-earned dollars and shillings and nairas and all these hard-earned money, take it to China, buy these cheap products, and then come and sell them to our people. Now, that kind of economy has led to a premature arrival of a lot of African countries into service economies, instead of being economies that actually build stuff. So if you don't build our industrial base, we become a trading economy. And that was the Big Four agenda was supposed to be addressing. Now, when you go to all these markets as you see all over this city, these things are coming from China, from other countries and all. Are we really creating jobs? No, because we have poor people trading amongst poor people. We are not adding value with the things that we are getting from China and coming to sell to our people. So we should be paying attention to the structure of the economy, where industrialization, the basic fundamental infrastructure or making stuff. I call it stuff. You should listen to my people at the college. When I tell our people, we need to start making stuff, making things, encouraging our people. Value addition, extremely important. And therefore, if we don't go in that route, we are going to see more of this, or young people selling their body parts and organs and all that to make a living. But if there are jobs that we can create for these young people, and we look at the fundamental structures of our economy and see the things that we need to do in order to create jobs, that's where we as leaders need to be held responsible.
Right. So Joyce, how do we start then on a clean slate when we have an old template? Will we just be getting the same results? You mentioned all these different facets of the economy, talked about the sports, looking at entertainment. Of course, Eliud Kipchoge gave us, of course, an impetus, fresh impetus last year that are truly, our dreams can be valid. We can actually achieve more. We can believe and trust in our abilities. But how do we start on a clean slate and still we have an old template?
I like the phrase that you have used, believing in our abilities. And I think about our mindsets. We have talked about choices. And it's important to realize that we do have choices. Now, when the young girls decide to sell their eggs, when young graduates from university decide to dig in terms of applying what they have learned as professions, and we see buildings collapse because people are taking shortcuts, then that tells me, or should tell us, that there's a change in mindset that we need to have. That even as we start on a clean slate, we do not have to compromise our future for the sake of getting short-term gain. So let me refer to a story a friend of mine told me. And this is a lady who graduated from university, was working in a bank, and the future looked bright for her. But what this lady did is every morning before reporting to her bank job, she would wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning. She would go to the market, buy vegetables, go and sell them, and then get ready and report to her job at the bank. Now, this is a lady who looked beyond the bank job, a lady who realized that you do not have to be confined in a space and be limited by the choices that have been presented to you. And so when we teach our young people to stretch their thinking, realize that yes, every dream is valid, but whatever dream that it is you're pursuing, it is not necessary to compromise the future at the expense of the short-term gain. Then we are going to see a difference in what happens. And so even, say, getting the grades for some of our students in the past who have compromised in terms of cheating in exams, you do not have to take that shortcut. And of course, at the broader level, then we need a lot of our village polytechnics now, they are not available, so they are not an option for those who are not making it to higher institutions of learning. So reinvesting in that. And let me go back a bit and also talk about, again, some of the mindsets that we need to change. When we see people going to church to be prayed for and are willing to compromise, again, because they have been made a promise, you plant a seed and you're going to receive your miracle. Again, it's compromising our future because we want a quick short-term gain. And so realizing that, like this friend of mine, the graduate, you can stretch yourself and go the extra mile. It might take longer, and of course it will take more work, but be willing to take that extra effort and have a better future.
Thank you. Right, maybe just try and looking at that particular perspective that you've given, because when we have such headlines and we take it at a face value that this is just a trend is going on, can we also look at the ramifications of it later in this country? Because in the East African region, Kenya has also been listed at the list country with, of course, the lowest fertility rate, you know, in the East African region as it is right now. We have the world over grappling with, you know, the population crisis of the aging population, and the youthful, the youthful ages are not really catching up as it is right now. Looking at this, so to speak, statistics that were given, I cannot really give the exact statistics as it is right now, but at least we know we are lagging behind, yet we have our girls, young girls, being subjected to this as it is right now. What then is the future of our population in this country, and also our working population for that matter?
These are very interesting big questions, and it's interesting that I've been a director of the African Institute for Development Policy, whose entire focus is on advising policy makers on how to benefit from the youth bulge in countries like ours in order to deliver a demographic dividend rather than all the stuff that Professor has been talking about, which is the present situation. So when you say we have a lower fertility rate here, it varies a lot around the country. So in some parts of the country, we have fertility rates that are unduly high, and in some parts we have rates that are unduly low. And in most countries there is this fragmentation of rates depending on cultures, education levels, so many things. The challenge, as we saw in this recent international conference on population development, is to have a sober, evidence-based, constructive approach to it, rather than emotional generalizations and distortions, which we saw too much of. Yes, we have aging challenges in some countries, in developed countries. Japan, for the first time, is encouraging immigrants. It's never done that before, because there it is so serious. Germany, elsewhere, that's one of the main stimuli for immigration. So this question of how you plan population is a very predictable thing, population extrapolation. And the challenge is that it's a long-term thing like climate change. And therefore it's beyond the electoral cycle in particular. So unless you are really thinking long-term sustainability, you don't worry about that sort of stuff. Last May, I think it was, when at AFIDEP we had a board meeting. As we were in the board meeting, the president of Tanzania told his people they no longer need family planning and birth control. We were shocked. It's not the case, of course, because then is how many children should you be having that is sustainable, that are jobs for, that you can handle within from among those who are earning money. But I want to come back to this story, Debal.
Yes.
Because the story is not actually about the women. The story is about the clinics who, as the headline says, lure them.
Yes.
The women are getting about 50,000 shillings, whilst the clinics are charging between 500,000 and 1 million shillings to those who seek the eggs. And this isn't the desperate poor. It's the in thing at universities. So it seems to me fine that young women see an income opportunity to help someone else have a baby who otherwise couldn't. To me, there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is not that. The problem is that there is not enough information about what they have to go through in order to donate the egg. And then the disparity between what they get and what is being charged. And it's a very interesting article that brings this balance between the seeker of the egg, the clinic, who's the villain of the piece, and the young woman who's, yeah, fine, why not make some money, but not realizing that it's quite traumatic, physically painful, emotionally jarring, or both, etc.
Right. Okay, so maybe we can actually take the conversation also to politics as it is right now. It seems now the political tone and tenor is that the decibels are rising or every day we can see something else is really happening as it is. And what does this really portend for the country at this epoch of time? Because we know it is getting sour. It is not a bit healthy as it is right now. People are going bare-knuckled against each other politically. What does it portend for us? Because we began very early. 2022, you say there is life beyond 2022, Joyce. But let's just hear from Prof. When we currently look at the politics of a day, and even as a media who is a conveyor of information, do you think also...
Not even the media, particularly the media.
Particularly. All right, let's hear from Prof.
Debal, this is one of the few countries in the world where politics is a full body contact sport, where you get engaged in this duel for the entire season.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate because it takes valuable time from valuable discussions and valuable things that we should be doing to solve the problems of our people in this country. Everybody is so busy trying to position themselves for political positions or influence 3 years from now. Everybody is so busy. And unfortunately, Debal, it's everybody who has everything to do with the national impact of where the whole country is supposed to be headed. And the other day, I remember I was with the governor of Laikipia on radio on Sunday, and he was showing us the trend of the locusts and the way the locusts were headed. And we are looking at that trend, and then I'm saying to myself, these millions of these little things that are flying all over this place, the moment they reach Nyandarua, if they go that way, and Nakuru, and these are the parts where our daily foods are coming from. We are looking at very, very serious scenario. And what we kept on asking ourselves during the time that we are on radio is, this is indeed a national is a national emergency. And at that time, it was only the county governments that were trying to fight. So the question we're asking ourselves is, all the machineries of the national government, and I'm so glad that Munya has now started that journey, have actually been activated to make sure this country not only does it not starve, but it doesn't now destroy all the crops that are in some of these regions. And some of these are perennial crops.
Yes.
Let alone tomatoes and others that we can do within a short period of time. Some of them are perennial crops. So it's a national emergency. So the question then we have to ask ourselves is, if our politicians at all levels, both national and county governments, they're so involved with political maneuvering and political positioning, and we forget about running things that they were put there to run, what happens to the economy? The economy starts to suffer. What happened to Wanjiku and Odhiambo and Ochiel and Wafula and everybody else? They can start to feel that pinch. So the question then we have to ask ourselves, why are we so drunk on politics and we don't spend enough time doing the things that we need to do to make the lives of, remember those 7 things I just put together?
Yes, yes.
Those 7 things define who we are as leaders. And the fundamental question we have to ask our people is, if somebody is having a negative impact in any of those 7 things, why should you be listening to that person? And unfortunately, our people do. That's why sometimes I blame our electorate for recycling. I think when Michael said about the clean slate, our electorate, Wanjiku, need to be aware that these 7 things are affected by the leadership that we have. Now, if those 7 things are affected, they're negatively affected, those are not people we should be listening to. And that's why, and I can understand the president's frustrations when we have premature politics for 2022, and we are not really focusing on delivering on the Big 4 agenda, where it touches on actually 6, almost all of these 7 that I talked about, the Big 4 agenda, it affects on all of this. Now, if we were to lesser focus on delivering for this country, on these 7 things that we discussed earlier, we can be a better nation. But we have to hold our leadership to account, both at the corporate level. In the private sector, we are working very hard to make sure we deliver. But then at the same time, we expect the same of those in political leadership, so that the environment allows the private sector to come and create jobs, to come and build those structures of the economy that allow us to create jobs as a country. And therefore, it is my hope that as we go into 2020 and beyond, we are going to really start refocusing. And I applaud the president for some of the changes that he's making. We need to start refocusing and really focus on delivering for the common person, such that we don't have our youth that are unemployed. And it is a thinking bomb. With 1 million kids joining the market every single year, and the cumulative millions that have been there over the years, all it takes is a little matchbox and somebody with a very big mouth with ill intention to light it up.
Right, thank you. Now, maybe just to bring to your attention as well, we had a report being released by the New Voices, New Faces on gender equality, assessing 60 leading companies on workplace equality when it comes to gender equality. And I'll just flip through that briefly with you so that you can see what it entails. If Jackie may just go through with me together to get some of these key findings from this particular report. We first have this special report. It says represents or presents all the 61 Kenyan companies listed on or at the Nairobi Security Exchange and ranks them based on their performance on gender equality. And you have the score card also on page 18, which I'll just flip over there momentarily. Some of the key findings are listed also hereafter. And the best performing company in Kenya is Standard Chartered Bank with a gender equality score of 63%. In comparison, the top performing company globally this year as well, out of 3,500 plus companies in Diageo with a score of 74%. Standard Chartered Bank in Kenya will rank within the top 50 companies globally, which are all at 61% or above. The average score across Kenyan companies is 26, which is comparable to the Canadian company's average score of 27%. There is, it goes on to say, women account for 23% of board members. The proportion of women on the board in Kenya continues to improve. It has slightly increased since 2017 based on the board diversity report conducted by the Kenya Institute of Management, and has almost doubled by has doubled since 2012. We have the graphs also presented there. And we have also the category gender balance in leadership and workplace. No company achieved gender balance at all. 4 levels: board, executive, senior management, and workforce. 6 companies have a gender balanced boards. Then we have here also women in top positions being given there. 7 companies, 12% have a female CEO. That is BOC Kenya, British American Tobacco Kenya, DTB Kenya, Eveready East Africa, Kengen, Limuruti, and Stanlib Fahari, and iReach as well. 12 companies have a female CFOs, 5 of which are in the financial sector. Let's just continue to, in other words, what we're talking about, starting on a clean slate. We've seen globally we're not doing very well as it is. Even in Africa, Rwanda has gone full steam ahead of us as far as mainstreaming gender parity is concerned. If we give it a political angle, we can see also in Parliament, this has been an ongoing debate, still in court as well. We're not really getting traction. Maybe you can tell us more about this, Joyce, and also Mike.
When I think about starting on a clean slate in the area of gender equality in the workplace, in politics, we have made some gains going by the figures that you have just read. And it's good to see that the figures have gone up. Average is 26%. A few years back, this was really down. Board members are 23%. But this, in the context of the discussion that we are having this morning, is we have made some gains, but that's not enough. There's a lot more that we should do.
Just continue. Yeah, don't be stranded. I think. Yeah, just continue.
Yes, because we are aiming for the 30%, their third rules, which means that we are not even meeting that yet. And therefore, for the gains that we have made, we need to continue working on that so that it's not just talk, but it's actually translating this to action. It's good to see that some private companies like Standard Chartered Bank, the one that you've just mentioned, is leading in that at 63%. And so it is realizing that if private companies can do it, and this is an agenda especially that has been driven at the government level, so there are policies backing this up, then we do need to implement what it is that we are saying that we need to do. So there's the popular phrase about walking the talk. We have a lot of talk, but we are not walking the talk yet, and therefore we need to stretch and see what else do we need to do so that even as going back to the area of education, there's encouragement of women to be involved in the science courses. There's this STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. As we implement the curriculum-based, the competence-based curriculum, then we need to inculcate this, so talking about this and really encouraging the young men, the young women to take courses right from an early age, to realize that for them to be able to make a difference, not just in the social sciences, but also in the pure sciences, then they do need to step up their game and really not be afraid and see the science courses as a threat. And therefore, when we take it from that level, continue building this up even as they go through education, and therefore, when they get to the workplace, then we're going to see a lot more women getting involved. Now, of course, that takes care of the science part. There's the arts part, because we do have a lot of women who are already equipped, but they're not taking up the leadership positions. And so those who are in positions of leadership need to create the space for women to be involved and to take up leadership and to step in positions where they are making a difference.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mike?
My role model for women in leadership is my wife, Evelyn Mungai. A year and a half ago, she published a book whose title is From Glass Ceilings to Open Skies. And it's a book of her speeches and also stories of women, nearly 40 women, and their journey to leadership. And I worked very closely with her on it, and the women we selected, interestingly, we selected because they hadn't reached leadership either because of or despite being women. It was because they were qualified, they put themselves forward, they had the competence, the confidence, they suffered setbacks, they took advantage of opportunities. And I think we have to appreciate that this is a journey. It's not a Slate scenario where you wipe it clean and yesterday you don't have gender equality and today you do. And I think that in countries like Kenya, we've come a long way with the urban professional woman. We're not talking about the rural areas where it's a mixed bag of things for understandable reasons, cultural and so forth. But when my wife goes, for instance, to Malaysia, to Indonesia, she sees how very far ahead we are here. In those countries, women are maybe symbolically at the top table, but they don't say very much. They're not listened to very much. Here, that's not the case at all. Where I am a consultant, a director, there are women, there are men. Gender is neither here nor there in who has what role and who's listened to and on what subject. At Davis and Shetcliffe, where I'm a director, engineers, hundreds of engineers, more and more coming in from university are women. And as they've come in, through their competence, they're rising very steadily, not slowly, up the organizational pyramid. So I'm one of the more optimistic people on this topic, appreciating that it is a journey, that we're not doing as well as some, Rwanda, we're doing better than most, except, of course, in the area of politics, which is so much more challenging. My wife stood for Parliament in 2007. She didn't win, but I didn't think it was at all because she was a woman. She wasn't prepared to do some of the things one has to do.
Right, and of course we can see the list is here as well for the rankings before we hear from Prof. Or Joyce. There you go. I promised to give you the rankings. You can see the list there. Barclays Bank is, not really Barclays, but Standard Chartered Bank is at the top there, followed by...
With a chairman who's a woman.
Yes, all right. The chairman is a woman right now, so
Anne Mutai, whose husband has just joined the cabinet.
Anne Mutai was the immediate former chair.
Former, yes, yes,
former. So right now we have Patrick Obath.
Yes.
And then we have Scan Group as well, Safaricom and Barclays Bank of Kenya, Kenya Airways, and the list goes on and on as well. And TransCentury is at the end there.
So where Anne Mutai is on the board.
Okay. So this is a list, and let's hear from Professor.
Can I, sorry, just before Professor starts, the other person that I wanted to mention and her organization, who's sometimes on these panels, is Catherine Musakali and her wonderful organization, Women on Board.
Women on Board, yes.
Where I'm also involved. And there, it's a question of promoting the capacity of women to be on boards, the matchmaking between boards who are seeking women and women who are seeking board positions. It's a great institution, and Catherine's a great lady as its chair.
Maybe also Prof can tell us how the board of Mater Hospital is doing as far as but you're not listed as well at the NSC.
Yes. No, we are doing well. We are doing well. The issue on gender, for one, it has to be methodical and deliberate. And if it's not methodical and deliberate, naturally you see ladies being disadvantaged because of some of the corporate cultures that we see. The same thing with politics. They are not willing, they are more unwilling to compromise their integrity. than the gentlemen are. So they are more likely to shy away from doing things that they will go like, that one, I don't think it's me. So we have to be very methodical and closely with KCB Foundation and MasterCard Foundation in the Young Africa Works program, where we are looking at training about 114,000 young people, young men and women, the next 5 years, both in construction, both in agriculture, and both in manufacturing. And those are deliberate programs that have been set to create over 1 million jobs, almost 1.5 million jobs the next 5 years. So with that in mind, MasterCard Foundation has asked us deliberately to make sure that we recruit a lot of women. And because we are focusing a lot on agriculture, and that's why we go now where Mike was talking about, when you go to the rural areas, the disparities are much higher in the rural areas. And I do believe agriculture is what is going to drive industrialization in this country. And you know as well as I do, a great evolution happens before we have industrial evolution. So we have to get it right in agriculture. Such that when our people are able to feed themselves, we have enough for trading, we have enough for the market, we have enough now to start producing. But how do we do that? If we look at each product's value chain, and within that value chain, we deliberately look at different verticals within that value chain. And we bring out the potential in each of those. And I'll give you an example. You take coconut.
Yes.
Coconut has 12 different uses. And these 12 different uses, most of them have been totally ignored. And they're ignored because we are busy with Madafu, we are busy with things that actually don't add a lot of value. Now, what we are going to do in this program is to make sure when we take coconut, we look at the product we need from coconut to work with in our hydroponic farming programs. Yes. Now, the other 11 uses of that plant itself, how do we get that now to spark growth, micro industries, in each of those other 12 uses? Now, when we do that, because of the multiplicity of use and creation of opportunities along the value chain, you start to see a lot of creation of different jobs. And therefore, as we address youth unemployment issues, as we address sectoral issues, everything we do has to be methodical, well thought out, and very deliberate. And that's the only way we are going to be able to get to where we want to be as a country, in terms of getting youth employment, in terms of getting gender equality. And sometimes we have to recruit more women deliberately, like we are doing in this program, so that they all come on board.
Right, thank you. Joyce?
The other bit that I would like to highlight is the place of media.
The place of media.
The place of media, yes. Because I believe even with the figures that we have just seen, there are other stories out there that are not covered. Now, this of course do not feature in terms of the companies that were being studied. I'll give an example. There's a board that I sit on, Christian Mission Aid. And 45% of the board members are women. So we have definitely met if we look at the third gender role. And therefore, the media going beyond covering the bigger companies and also going out and really fishing for the stories where we see the success stories of women rising up and taking up the positions. Of course, like has been mentioned here, women have to be willing to put up their hands because if the opportunities are there and they do not put up their hands, then of course it will not happen. When we go to the rural setting, now here we are not talking about boards, but we are talking about the people who are contributing in terms of economic activity. And unfortunately, and I know this varies from county to county, but there are some counties where our young men have really fallen on the wayside and are not leading productive economic lives because of the drinking problem. And you find that in some spaces, it is the women who are going out and fending for their families. So even as we talk about the media, again, highlighting cases like this, And this now serves as a challenge to other institutions and spaces where women are not getting an opportunity, either not getting an opportunity or not rising up to the challenge, even when they're given an opportunity to go in and make a difference. So when these cases are highlighted, then it's possible to draw lessons from here and see that, yes, we need to, as women, step up when those opportunities are made available.
Right, thank you. Finally, Mike, then we shall just give our headline thoughts. We're supposed to be winding up right now. Mike, so just as we have an open check, you've of course spoken on so many varied things from Electon as well, but what will be one particular overarching thing that you want to see and you're desirous to see about this country happening this year on a clean slate?
Well, there's what want to see and expect to see.
And expect to see.
What want to see is politicians and the media with a new slate, clean slate. Expect to see exactly the same slate. And what we see now, the Standard particularly is really having fun. It's like a trailer for a movie, most of the front page headlines now.
The Standard
is the champion these days.
The Standard is the champion.
The Star now has 16-page political pullouts, Gideon, Murkomen, etc. You guys today are the heroes because you've not gone with the main story. But that's not going to change. You still want to entertain us with a daily episode of the soap opera. The politicians feed into that.
So our template has not really changed as it is? We still have the same template.
Same template, same slate. The opportunity is for us, the people, to have a clean slate in putting up with this and in public participation. My bottom line is we need more organized, more assertive, constructive engagement, public participation. The BBI calls for this bottom-up approach. I should be right now after this at a KEPSA meeting as one of the follow-ups to the BOMAS conference on how the private sector and the civil society, the religious leaders, academia, etc., have to advocate with government to dampen that unchanging slate.
Right. Prof?
For me, Dibal, I'm hoping to see what I think Michael alluded to, the same sober, constructive approach to the things that we hope to do in order to achieve the 7 things that I said we need to achieve. And I'll ask Wanjiko out there, if somebody or people are negatively affecting any of those 7 things, then it's upon you to decide what you want to do with that person, because your future as Wanjiko depends on the kind of leadership that we have, the kind of leadership that we're going to put in place. We usually say you cannot solve a problem using the same methods that landed you in the problem in the first place. So with a clean slate, and I'm good to hear Mike saying the politicians and the newspapers. Unfortunately, the eraser is probably not there yet, because it's going to be the same slate moving on. The headlines have to sell. Our politicians still have to talk. But we are hoping that we can reset the button and start focusing on real issues that are facing this country, and especially our young people.
Right, thank you. Joyce, finally, your closing remarks.
This, for me, is both at the macro level and also at the individual level. Now, politics, the elections of 2022, we are still at least 2 years away from the elections, but there's clearly a lot of talk around this, and for some of the politicians, because they play on Wanjiko and her siblings maintaining status quo, because that serves them. We need to change this. We need to be focusing on growing industry, on solving health issues, the cancer menace, and equipping our institutions. We need to be thinking about the slums. And so when we focus so much on the politics, then our priorities, clearly we are either not giving our minds to what our priorities are, or we are ignoring that. And now when we come to the individual level, it's many times you get, when you go for a chama meeting, go for in the office lunch break, at whatever forum, the focus is what's in the media, again, the politics. And so at those 2 levels, we need to reorganize our priorities and focus on the things that will help us build industry and help us make a difference.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Joyce Kaduki. She is a leadership coach and trainer. Also, Mike Eldon, who is the founder and the managing director of the depot. Also, Professor Dominic Mwenja, who is the CEO of Mater Hospital. We were expecting Tom Kagwe and Trufosa Kwakasuba as well. They did manage to make it today, but nonetheless, we've had a very interesting conversation, and thank you also for your valid company, your reactions on social media. I promise this year I'll improve also on just reading out your comments on social media and engaging you more on the program. Thank you very much for your valid company, and I hope also you're starting on a clean slate. Please make sure you travel light this year. My name is Dibalada.
Kari and Adigo are the new content creators in the block. Creating a buzz on social media will also feature with their series Obinja. Also look out for what the streets are up to on Word on the Street. DJ Bash will be on the decks to play you the best mix, the countdown and your requests.
You are just in time. The live link will be done by Muledan, and sports has a lot to be shown, and Sean Cadavillis
keeping you up to date with all you need to know as and when it happens.
It's not been a very good morning in the country. We've had a very grisly accident.
In clear context to all the relevant issues.
Reacquire the property they've gotten with our looted money and save this country for my child and daughter Teko and the many children.
From our studios to the ground where the action is live.
Misuse of funds here in the country.
Someone donating their hat to Bernard Ojwang there.
Welcome to NTV Today. You are just in time. The live link will be done by Muledan, and sports has a lot to be shown, and Sean Cadavillis
keeping you up to date with all you need to know as and when it happens.
It's not been a very good morning in the country. We've had